I'm Dean Newlund, and welcome to Leadovation. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. This podcast is dedicated to the art and science of innovative leadership. Through insightful interviews with industry experts, I bring you cutting-edge strategies and experiences of innovative leadership, helping you think differently, act strategically, and achieve remarkable results. Join me as I provide insights and tools that empower you to make smarter decisions, forge meaningful relationships. Welcome to Leadovation. Cell phones, games, are built to keep us hooked, and our brains are paying the price. Stress, scattered attention, impulsive decisions. It's becoming the norm. Dr. Mary Donohue is changing that with short, playful digital breaks that reset the brain, reduce stress, and help people think more clearly. Her work shows how to use technology in a way that supports emotional regulation instead of fueling addiction. In this episode, we dig into how dopamine works, how to create healthier habits, and how simple game-based breaks can help you regain focus and make better decisions in just a few minutes. I did not grow up with a cell phone. I did not grow up, even when they had them, any sort of gaming system. My son did. He was very much into it. I think he still is fairly into it. I do know that I have an addiction to my phone. I do know that it's difficult to break it free from me. I do know that on average, we probably touch our phone 2,000 times a day. I get that. But talk about what you might call the addictive gaming system versus one that's more healthy for you, and then maybe your work around that space.
So the addictive gaming system is what we see happening through young men, women, older women. It's that need to chase the dopamine. It's that need to win. For example, Call of Duty or Minecraft or any of those kinds of things. It's a very different experience than maybe Pac-Man was. And there's just all things coming at you all the time. The same thing happens with gambling. When you're gambling online, when you go to a racetrack, you watch the horses, you watch the trainers, you're watching the physical cues. But in any of the things I just mentioned to you, there's no physical cues for your body to think, "Ooh, okay," or your body to say, "Oh, I'm tired." And if you're tired, you just tend to chase losses more. And what I mean by that is if you're losing at a certain game, we've all seen young people do this, young men in particular. They'll just play harder, they'll play longer, they're going to win. The same thing happens with gambling, like you chase your losses. Okay, I've lost this, but this next bet, I'm going to get this. And all of this is because our brains weren't designed to be on technology. Nobody really thinks about this. 2007 was the introduction of the iPhone.
Right.
And that is the first time our brains started doing this, Dean. And your brain is the most amazing organ, but you got to give it time to develop. And we haven't. We've just thrown ourselves in. So it's like you're running a marathon every single day and you're just pushing to finish and pushing to finish. And your body is responding. And so corresponding to the gaming, we see stress levels rising, depression levels rising. We're not seeing the equalization of mood. And that's where I come in. I build emotional regulation systems. I use humor, I use gaming, I use visual, auditory, and kinesthetic experiences that have people catch a breath so that your brain that's filling with clouds can just see a little bit of sunshine.
So how does that work? If there's a 17-year-old kid or a 57-year-old person addicted to the dopamine that is being fired up by the game in which they're playing, a game in which they're trying to win, and of course the industry is designed to do that, Where do you come in? How do you help them, to your point, take a break, reset? Or do we need different gaming systems that don't prey upon this addictive behavior that we have?
Well, there's always going to be addicts, first of all. Like, there is absolutely nothing we can do to to stop someone from being an addict, no matter what we're talking about. If we're talking about drinking, if we're talking about drugs, if we're talking about too much work, if we're talking like all of these different things, there's that personality. But what we can begin to do is train behavior, Pavlov, behavior modification, so that they don't go down that slippery slope. And that's where I am, is I teach your brain new behaviors by introducing silly games. So I'll give you an example. During a high betting season in Canada, when the hockey season started. Now, just please be aware I'm not a sporting person, so I'm probably not good with sports analogies, so I won't do this. But I do know there's a famous Canadian hockey player. His name is Wayne Gretzky, and
Well,
he
yeah,
was
we've heard of
famous.
him. Yeah.
he, he's famous for saying, go where the puck is going, not where it is.
Right.
And that's what we do. So on TikTok, we introduced something that said, before you chase those losses, before you chase those bets, but we said it in such a way that was, hey, getting ready to game, got your stats in order? Is your brain in order? Try this. So in the 5 days we ran the campaign, we had 234,000 young men view that TikTok. And out of that, 11,000 clicked on our break. And they played through the break for over a minute. TikTok thought one or two would take this originally, not 11,000. And so what that shows is that people are craving a break. We have to give it to them.
So, okay, is TikTok set up to create addiction, dopamine addiction, the way a game would?
Social media is an addiction. You just said you're on your phone. 82% of adults can't put down their phones right now to take a shower. So, you know, like the phone is an addiction. The social media is an addiction, not just TikTok, not just Facebook.
Not
If
just
you,
gaming.
not
Yeah.
just gaming,
You're
if you
bringing in, okay.
see someone walking down the street, is anyone just looking at the color of the leaves in fall? No,
Right.
they're on their phone. People are getting killed because they're walking on their phone. Like in Toronto, somebody was hit by a streetcar. I'm sorry. That's a really big machine. You didn't
Right.
notice it?
Yeah. Well, so, all right. So go back to the TikTok example. What was
Mhm.
it that so many people clicked on that proved the point that these people needed a break? What was the break that they got?
It's a game. We use a number of different games. For example, something silly like matching pictures, or here's a line drawing. What do you think it is? But we allow you to play for a little while. We don't ask your email. We don't want to know anything about you. We just want to bring you some quick relief. And then you can also, and this is how we gamified it, see your score and see how you're doing against other people, which is absolutely key. So what we've done is taken typical entertainment and turned it into a mental health process.
But how is, I mean, I guess I'm not quite there yet. The
Okay.
fact that now my score is being compared with others' scores
Sure.
and vice versa, does that now not encourage me to compete, to get into the dopamine addiction, to win, much like I would if I was in Call of Duty? How is that any different?
There's nothing to win.
Other than the
Have
fact that I
had
am not the
people,
highest in my
right.
group, or I'm not
Now
the
I have
best.
had people pay it for 20 minutes and they've become number one and they leave. But what
But
they're doing are behaviors that, so I talked about the clouds. So every
yeah,
time you do this behavior, because you're focusing on something other than your work, other than your phone, other than your social media, other than, you're just playing this silly game having some fun, seeing where other people score, and then you win. And then you move to another behavior. So it's very much like water between beers. Do you remember when the alcohol industry said, don't quit gambling, just, or don't quit drinking? I don't think the alcohol company, like a beer company, have water between beers so you can be sensible. And that's all I'm doing is building this sensibility into it. So
So
what
it's a
happens when, go ahead.
it's a different kind of play
Mm,
that resets the brain, creates some relaxation. Even though I can see how I am stacking up against other people, it's not this. I guess I'm trying to find is how what makes that different than Call of Duty. Call of Duty, of course, is very sensory overwhelm, and there is, of course, that need to continue to win and to destroy, the other things that go with it. As far as I can tell, I don't play it.
I will tell you.
I guess I'm trying to get my mind around how they're different.
Um, First of all, ours aren't designed for long-term use. Your brain
Okay.
gets tired of them.
Okay.
Second, what we do in this is give you something else to focus on. So you're still gambling, but you're taking a time out.
Hmm.
Think about it when you're running. If you're running a long distance, you do take a drink of water. You maybe have a bite of your bar. You do something. If you're training for a run, you stretch pre, you stretch post. If you have a sore leg, you stop. Well, the problem with all these addictions online is there's no trigger in your brain to say stop. So
Hmm.
we have to offer you that opportunity to stop. And when you stop, so think about it this way, when you're in an addicted state, your dopamine is high or your dopamine is low. When your dopamine is high, you're making fast rush decisions. You think you're on top of the world. You're feeling good. You've got this. You know it. When your dopamine is low, you're like, whatever. I'm just going to play and like whatever. I'll let it roll. I'll let it ride. You're depressed. What we do with the way the language, the activities, the games, the competition, all of it is designed for each generation's way of processing information through technology. We have one game called Droodles that's generational agnostic. We have binaural beats that are agnostic. We have
Hmm.
other things that are designed specifically for each generation. So that what it does is it introduces oxytocin in the brain,
Hmm.
and so it levels off that dopamine. When that happens, you yourself say, okay, now it's time for me to maybe go back to gambling or go back to Call of Duty, or maybe it's a time to do my homework or take the garbage out or talk to my wife or take a shower, put down my phone. But that's what it's all designed to do. And in that whole process, we ask you how you're feeling. We ask you to measure your mood.
Hmm.
So that's a key factor in all this because we actually ask you how you're thinking, and we patented the way that this works so that from a psychological standpoint, you begin to modulate your dopamine. Then what you do is we ask you how you're feeling. And then what happens is you begin to start the better decision-making process. And that's what we want to do. We want to give people that water between beers.
This is fascinating. Um, I've had this awareness lately that we've always been talking about from a leadership perspective. What are the competencies that make a great leader?
Mhm.
And you often hear self-awareness is number one. Harvard talks about it. Other companies talk about it. Researchers and so forth. I get that, but I've been thinking lately is that you can't be self-aware if you don't have focus. If you're
Yeah.
scattered all over the place, there is no self-awareness. So almost like preceding self-awareness is the ability to stay focused. And what we're being taught by these little devices and the games that we're playing is to socialize and to train the brain to be multi-focused or to be scattered in its focus or to focus on only one thing for a very short amount of time and then move on to something else.
Well,
Hence,
that's
we
the
go to
point.
yeah. I'm with you. I 100%. So, is your work focused primarily in the technology industry, or do you have other ways to address this
No,
dopamine
sorry.
addiction outside of that?
We don't deal with addiction. Companies like Kindbridge deal with addiction. They're
Okay,
a great mental health company. We deal with the behavior to prevent the addiction.
you're
We want to
upstream.
reduce that risk. But currently, we're working in transportation at airports because what's happening is in general, and I love what you talked about in terms of focus, because I agree that's far more important than anything else, the ability to focus. Um, in general, what we're finding is the world is stressed. It is more angry. According to the World Health Organization, 66% of adults are suffering from a stress related disease globally. That could be
Hmm.
cardiac problem. It could be a digestive problem. It could be diabetes. It could be cancer. Like 95% of cancers are environmental. Stress is an environmental cause of any of these things. And these phones stress us out. Well,
Yeah.
and that's why we're the digital wellness center, because we deliver through your phone a method to feel better while you're on your phone. And everybody says, oh no, just take time off your phone, do this, do that. Well, guess what? That's not happening. 8 out of 10 people have their phone with them all the time. So any solution you make will have to include a phone to help people help themselves.
We found a study. This is so great, Mary. A while back, we found a study that said, all right, you got two sets of students. They're both getting the same test. They both understand the material the same amount. One set actually can see their phones that are turned off, like on the periphery of their vision, like on the
Yeah.
desk over there. And the other set of students could
Oh,
not see their phone at all. It was hidden under the table or what have you. The results were that the students that could not see their phones got a full letter grade higher than those that could. So it was a cognitive intelligence result. And also, there's been other studies I've heard that, having your phone around or having technology around actually reduces our emotional intelligence. We become less tolerant of other people. So I think what you're onto is absolutely right. But go back to the story that you started around airports. There's something that you wanted to share, and I don't think you finished it. What was the airport work that you were doing relative to this conversation?
TSA lineups.
Yes.
TSA lineups, people are notoriously badly behaved. It's like somehow people think they're going to an airport and they're going to just be able to just walk up to TSA and go through it. I travel a lot for work, and I have never, ever, ever experienced that at a major airport. There is always a lineup. And then people are always on their phone. The more you're on the phone, the more stressed you get, the longer the wait seems. And you start to make bad decisions in TSA. And
Hmm.
let's face it, TSA is not the place to make a bad decision.
No.
So, what we came up with was little stickers and QR codes that you could just play and reduce stress. And we use these in casinos. Now, everyone said to me, no one's going to do that. That's stupid. It's not going to work. Literally. Guess what in casino? 44% usage. 44%.
So I'm in Vegas or I'm in some really big city, Dubai, and I go to a casino and I see this QR code and I download the game to be
No,
able to.
that's not how it works.
How does it
Again, it's
work?
a different process. What happens is we have a silly Billy picture and we say, "Can you solve this puzzle?" I haven't said anything
Oh,
about you having an addiction. I haven't said anything about you putting yourself in danger. I've just
okay.
asked you a question. Can you solve this puzzle? They click on the
Ah,
QR code. They go directly to the game. They play the game on our platform. They get asked to rate their mood. They play some more. They ask how they're feeling again, and then they leave. On average, people spend under 4 minutes with us. Now, I have had people spend up to 20, but they're just having fun trying to win the first spot, and then they feel good and they stop.
So, um, so you obviously have an opinion, rightfully so, that these activities are good in places like TSA,
Yep.
security lines at airports. Is there any data that you've been able to find aside from the usage level around reduced incidents with, the officials, or anything that would tie your process into better behavior at airports?
No, the only thing I measure is the mood. So if
Mm,
somebody starts out stressed, like on a scale, if somebody's stressed, my goal is to move them to happy in less than 3 minutes, because then we know research tells us you're making better decisions. I would leave that up to the airport, to the government,
okay.
to the officials to measure that. And we of course share all our data with them, and they would, if they wanted to, let me know what's going on, but we don't require it. My job is the people.
So the
I think
idea,
my
and I think
camera
it's
quit.
intuitive, is happier people make better decisions.
Yeah,
Yeah, and probably happier people might be a little less addicted, or chasing after the next thing. I get it. Okay.
yeah,
So, Mary, this is really kind of a niche
yeah.
piece of work that you're doing. I don't think that probably they're in Toronto, Canada, when you're in college, you decided to do this as a business because there wasn't anything out there. How did you get into this? What was the antecedent, if you will, to your work? Where did it all start? How did you say, I found something that I really need to be doing?
Well, first of all, I went to Central Michigan University.
Hey,
Yay.
all righty.
So, but second, none of it had to do with school. It had to do with two things. Me having a heart attack because of being online too much,
Oh, really?
and um, yeah, almost dying in the back of an ambulance and sort of lying in that situation after living and realizing these machines are helping keep me alive. But how can I now use machines to help other people avoid this situation? That's why
So,
we look at proactive mental health.
what was it, if I may, I know this is a personal question, but if you could walk us through that. So you were playing online a game,
No,
and
no.
what happened that caused the heart attack? And can you connect the two together?
Sure. I don't know any games. I just learned them from people that were interested
Okay.
in telling me. But what happens is during COVID, you were online a ton. I was dealing with a number of stressors that also caused me to be online. And we
Mm,
taught people to have meetings online. And then you're on your phone and you're watching your phone. And as you're building a business, you're online more and more and more. So, on average, let's say you get 125 emails a day and you have to answer 40% of them. Then you still have 6 hours of meetings. Microsoft and I did a paper, I think it was in Harvard Business Review, on how many meetings we have to go to. So now you know you're working an 8 to 10 hour day. I'm a mother. I have a child to take care of. So now I'm adding childcare. Then my father died. So we had to care for my
mm,
mother. And then, and then, just like everybody else's life. But
yeah.
we were also dealing with the financial stressors of our government just decided to shut down the world. We're not going to let you outside. We're not going to let you travel. We're not going to let you do anything.
I remember
And
that.
so obviously killed my business.
Yeah.
And so those are all the stressors that built up in my life. And there was no way other than pharmacological to say, okay, help you what's going on. And I'm not a huge believer for me to be taking more drugs for a problem I created myself, because
Mm,
stress is in your head.
yeah. Yeah.
Nobody realizes that. It's not like hitting your elbow and hurting your elbow. You create the stress. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about with the dopamine and the clouds. And I think that's why this works so well, because I'm the one that suffered from it. And I
Mm.
needed a solution. There was no solution. So, boom. And how did I get into gambling? My littlest brother bet $17,000 one Thanksgiving on the kick of a football.
Oh,
And he looked like, from a physiological perspective, like he was stroking out once he realized what he had done. And then all kinds of things kicked in after he had made this bet that said, oh, that's too much money for you to bet. You're out of your comfort level. You should stop betting. You should. He had already bet $17,000. So what do I do to stop that stress, to stop him from doing that? Is there something I could create? And that's how all this started.
All right. So, what was the industry or what was the business that you were doing prior to COVID? And 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 then also sort of share with us how do you work with companies or governments now? So, what's
Okay.
before and after?
My dissertation was on behavior modification through mentoring.
Hence
So
the
I
doctor,
designed, yes, I
PhD doctor. Yes,
not a medical
not a
doctor, and
not an MD. Yeah, got
I
it.
do not take therapy patients. I design systems for people. Um, and
Hmm.
so, um, I had the great good fortune of working with Mike Camp and Jabal Floyd at Walmart in Arkansas. And we looked at building this system out so that it could scale, it could benefit the participant, and it would benefit the business.
This is now
So
before COVID.
before COVID. So
And what
this
was the
was
system again, if you wouldn't mind?
the mentoring system.
A
So how do
mentoring
you
system.
take
Okay,
different people and teach them actual leadership skills within the culture of the organization?
got
But
it.
how do you do it equally across the board? Because mentoring isn't an equal thing. I might get different mentoring than, say, my daughter, who's Asian, who might get different mentoring from her friend who's African American. Like there's
Hmm.
all, but how do you systematize it? And then how do you measure it? And what do you measure it in? So we measured in productivity based on the work of Edward Deming
Hmm.
and Peter Drucker, which
Right.
is um, the idea between engagement, value, and trust. And those levels equal productivity. So that was the scale I created there. And during that time, Jabal Floyd said to me, Dr. Mary, I really like this and it's working great and it's fabulous. But can you tell me why millennials aren't responding to the same leadership cues that Gen Z or boomers did or Gen X did?
Hmm.
And that's what I said. I said, I do not know, Mr. Floyd, but if you give me a year, I'll come back with the answer. And I did. And then I had the great good fortune of working with Kaiser Permanente,
So go
Microsoft.
back if you could. Hold on
Oh,
a second. What is the answer then, in a nutshell? Because you said you took a year to figure this out. I wanted to get to the end of that story because I'm curious. What is the answer?
each brain processes information on technology differently based on how they were introduced to technology in the workplace or in school or by their parents or by the economy. What I mean by the economy is currently we have a generation of children who were taught only to communicate this way,
You mean
which
virtually?
is virtually,
Yes.
digitally. So in person, they suffer.
Yes.
Millennials were the first latchkey kids. They use texting to be less lonely. So now they use technology to be less lonely. Gen X, which I suspect we both are, use technology as entertainment. We're the CNN generation. We were informed. We love PowerPoint. We love whiteboards. We love lists. And if we look at boomers, they've heard technology coming into the workplace. There were typing pools. There was the sound of technology. There was the feel of technology when you wrote on a memo and carbon came out. There was a person for everything, like a secretary to take minutes of a meeting. It wasn't an otter.
Right. Yeah.
So when I
Okay.
went back to Dabo, I said, what you have to do is change how this is based on the work of Marshall McLuhan, you have to change the message you're giving to make sure that it is received by their brain. And what I mean by that is with millennials, you use kinesthetic work. With boomers, you use auditory words. With Gen X, you use visual words. So once I began training people in that, Then they began to see far more success in their leadership teams. And when you said focus, I went, okay. And then Kaiser Permente said, why are younger doctors not engaging with older doctors in the way they used to? Well, because younger doctors are already on their phones looking up the drugs that these guys are on, and they didn't converse in the same way as older doctors did as teens walking through their rounds. And so I wrote a whole book on it called Message Received. And then all of my work is now based on that because I identified chronic anxiousness syndrome from all of the work that we do on digital.
Hmm. Fantastic. It's really, really good. So, what sort of recommendations do you have for individuals or teams within companies to be more proactive? I mean, yes, work with you if they can, but in lieu of that, what should we
Absolutely.
be doing?
I think what you should be doing, excuse me, Dean, is really beginning to understand who your team is. Going right back to the basics of the Hawthorne study back in the 1920s, which is pay attention to them and give them the message the way they want to receive it. The Hawthorne study demonstrated the value of paying attention to people. Marshall McLuhan demonstrated that the medium is the message. So understand if your team wants to be working in
Hmm.
Zoom or Slack, if they want to be meeting in person, if they want to text by email, if they want to. One of your other people I listened to on your podcast while I was running the other day. Hold on, I came home and wrote it down. I liked it so much. He said, um, connection before content.
Hmm.
And that's what I believe as well.
That's great. All right. So, um, how can people follow you? You said you got a book, you've got
Yeah, I do.
programs. Just give us the laundry list of ways that we can interact with you.
The laundry list. Well,
Well, maybe a short laundry list.
you can find the book on Audible. I don't even
Okay.
think it's in print anymore. It came out in 2020 from McGraw-Hill.
Okay.
Um,
Message
you can
received. Right.
Message received.
Yep.
You can find it on it's on Amazon. I know that. The book. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can go to the digitalwellnesscenter.com and send me an email through there. Excuse me. Those are probably the best ways to connect with me.
That sounds great. So, Mary, what's your vision? What's happening in as you look broader, look at trends, look at what's happening in our society. Um, I can only imagine what you're doing is going to become more important.
Mhm.
Is it hmm, is it doable to make a dent, or are the forces of creating addictive dopamine sought out after hormones by large industry just so great that it just doesn't seem like anything we can ever make a dent in?
Good heavens, no. They're not that good. Otherwise,
Good.
they would be doing good. Like, watch any Marvel movie with Iron Man. The forces of evil fall to Iron Man.
Yes, they
And
do, but
so
so
think
I
of me as Iron Man and understand that I have one thing they don't, which is a brain and science.
yes,
And I'm doing this for good. And so
yes.
when people realize I don't want anything from you, the brands that I work with are giving this to you help yourself. That's exactly it. I don't ask for your email. I don't try and
Hmm.
upsell you. I don't want anything from you. I just want you to feel good so you don't go home and kick your dog. So you don't go home and like do any of those things that we all do in anger, and that you don't have a heart attack, that you don't bet $17,000. Like the world has just gotten so mean that it's the pendulum. 44% adoption in a casino. People want to
Hmm.
feel good.
Hmm.
And we are, we're unveiling something next in January at a global conference that we're really proud of, that will allow people just to walk in and change their mood like that.
Hmm. Do you see any indication that some industries are going to include your work in their design of their products, say for a gaming product? Because, like, in a sense, you've got parallel track. You're going to Vegas, you have the tendency for addiction relative to gambling, and then you come in and introduce some ways to take breaks from all that. Are there software organizations, industries that are bringing that together? We're designing these, like design for Six Sigma, right? We're designing these particular software programs, these games, with your research in mind.
So we have actual products that people are connecting with our API and building into their products.
Okay.
If we're talking about the future, I see us in retail stores. I see us working with ethical people like we do in Las Vegas.
Hmm.
We work with ethical global companies like Flutter, who owns a ton of different gambling things like FanDuel that you would probably see ads for every day.
Hmm.
They've said they came to us, they gave us an award in the industry and said, okay, here's some money, figure out how we can build you into us. So there's a lot of CEOs that suddenly woke up and had a Coke moment. And what I mean by that is Coca-Cola's sales were tanking in the late 1960s. And Coke was like, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix it? And they created this kitschy song called I'd Like to Teach the World to
I
Sing,
remember that. That was a great
holding a
song.
Coca-Cola bottle,
Yeah.
still a sword.
Yes.
So people could say to me, oh, you're Pollyanna. And I'm like, no, I'm actually not. I have the data that shows that you have a better customer journey. They spend more with you, they make better decisions, and they come back to you again and again and again. Don't forget, I was trained by Walmart. I know what a good product would do.
I think they're doing just fine. Thank you very much.
Yes, they are.
They're
And they're
killing
still
it.
great partners, great collaborators.
That's great. So how big is this group that you're, I mean, is this your company?
This is my company and I have investors and we're just moving it through and talking to people like you. And, again, when you talk about focus, I'm like, I should make a game for that. How can I do that?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Right.
so this is what I need to do. And I need to do a lot more speaking and get this out more. But I have to say, like, over the course of the last year, we have met with more CEOs that have said, hell yes, than we have people saying no.
Hmm. Mary, I really appreciate you and what you're doing. I think I had somewhat of a defeatist, pessimistic attitude behind all of this technology, addictive, trend that seems to be happening. And you've given me some hope. This is really powerful stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you. It is my life's work to just heal the world. People want to teach it to sing. I just want to heal it, make it happier.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Leadervation with Dean Newlund. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com, or check the show notes. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. Transform your leadership success with Leadervation.